Hello and welcome back to the Watford Way today as we react to Watford 0, Norwich City 3. A very disappointing result for Watford. A huge result in terms of the season and how the season is going to pan out. Will we stay up? Will we go down? We'll discuss that all today. I'm joined by a new contributor to the channel. I'm delighted to be joined by Callum today. So Callum, how are you doing? Obviously you watched the game last night. It wasn't very good. It didn't go to plan how we wanted it to. So I hope you're doing well. And firstly, what are your initial thoughts on the game? We'll get into the starting lineup in just a second. But yeah, it did not go to plan, Callum, did it?
Well, firstly, I could be a lot better. Yeah, it really wasn't the best showing yesterday. I mean, we just need change. I think it's as simple as that. I mean, we were discussing just before we went live that, Foster yesterday was a huge miss. He has COVID. I mean, ultimately, that's not really his fault. I mean, COVID just is spreading everywhere at the moment. But yeah, I just think our goalkeeper, he's championship standard. And also, as you said before, the live stream, the third goal was just horrific. The goalkeeper in there was just not good enough. We just need change. It's as simple as that. I think Duxbury and Pozzo, they've taken the club as far as they possibly can, and I think it's time to, just move on. And we actually have owners who know basically where the market is in terms of buying youth and basically trying to develop it in that way. As we have a really old squad combined. I mean, we've got I don't think Kiembe. How old is Kiembe, if you know?
He's 23 years old, Kiembe.
23, yeah. So, I mean, but we've got players like Samir, who's also not, he's in the middle. I think he's 27, is he, or something like that? Or actually, I could be completely wrong. But yeah, we just have quite an old combined squad, and our bench isn't doing us many favours as well. So I think we just need change. I think it's as simple as that. We aren't good enough. I think Ranieri, he has the experience. I think if he does get sacked, then it's going to be hard to find someone with that experience that's free in the market right now. But yeah, it wasn't a very good showing from the boys yesterday.
I think for me, Ranieri is, I've kind of explained it in the sense that his collateral damage in terms of a long, I think Watford, peaked under the Pozzos when we got to the FA Cup final in 2019. Obviously, it was a great season under Javi, all culminated in the FA Cup final. And ever since then, we've kind of been on a downward spiral. Yes, we got promoted back to the Premier League from the Championship, but that was to be expected. I expected that the players we had Ismail Assar, Andre Gray, Troy Deeney, Decore, etc. I'd expect to get promoted back to the Premier League with a squad like that. However, we are in the Premier League now, and it hasn't gone to plan. I know Scott Duxbury released a statement last season saying that they wanted to invest in younger players, as you discussed, Callum. They've not really done that. Yes, we do have some young talented players, the likes of Jeremy Ngakia, João Pedro, and a few others. James Morris, yeah, exactly.
Josh Morris.
Yeah. But overall, Kuchka, who's 34 years old, free transfer. Danny Rose is on something ridiculous, like 60 grand a week. And just can't get fit and can't make his way into the squad. And there's so many other things we could delve into, but if we did that, we'd be here for about 2 hours, Callum. So I'm not going to do that today. We'll discuss that in a video ultimately when Claudio Ranieri does get sacked. A few outlets have been reporting that this afternoon. The Daily Mail, Telegraph Sport as well. Samuel Luckhurst has done an article on it. And it does look like they are going to make the decision to sack Ranieri. So I'll have my own thoughts on that in that video when that happens. But today we're here to talk about the game. Ultimately, Callum, we'll talk about the starting lineup very briefly before we delve into obviously what happened. And I'll quickly run through that now. So it's Daniel Batman, Kiko Femenir, Christian Kabasele, Samir, Kamara, Tom Cleverley, Kiembe and Sissoko. And up front we had Joshua King, Emmanuel Dennis and João Pedro. So when you saw the team sheet, Callum, what was your initial thoughts? Were you happy? Were you angry? Were you content? What were your thoughts when you saw the team sheet? Because a lot of our new signings obviously started.
Yeah, I mean, it was the home debuts for Kamara, Kiembe and Samir. So I feel like the way they performed against who did we perform against again? I'll see it. I'm not with it today. Yeah, Newcastle. See, I'm not with it today. Yeah, so performing against Newcastle. Yeah, I think they actually did alright. I think Kamara is definitely. I think he's a decent left back. Samir, I think, was one of the best players on the pitch. So yeah, I feel like I think they're going to elevate our squad. I mean, for the rest of the remainder of the season. But yeah, I feel like the squad's okay. As I said, Backman, I just don't think he's a good enough goalie. And like you just said there, I mean, we need to, invest in a player like I don't think the Pozzos will mainly, invest in a player with good quality, but I think like they need to invest in someone who can actually be a good backup goalkeeper, because Foster's not actually, he's not young anymore. He's way into his 30s, so I feel like we just need a solid a more solid back line. I mean, I think there's more talks now that we're getting that guy called Kalu, I think he's called.
Yes, Samuel Kalu, but
Samuel Kalu.
He's got nothing to do. He's got nothing to do with the defence, and to act as devil's advocate, Callum, we have actually signed a goalkeeper, Maduka Okoye from Sparta Rotterdam, but obviously he's not set to join until the summer, so he can't actually help us out now. So if it's between Backman and Foster, Callum, I presume you're backing Ben Foster in that situation.
I think, because I think Foster, he's got tons of Premier League experience, and I don't wish any ill will on Backman, because I feel like he can definitely thrive under another club that's just a bit of a lower standard, because I just don't think he's fit for the Premier League. But yeah, I think Foster, he's kept quite a solid base as a Premier League goalkeeper, and I feel like he will continue to until he does part ways or his contract runs up. So, like you said, that Okoye, I think he's in an African Cup of Nations at the moment. I think with
Nigeria alongside William Schuster-Kong, of course, and they're actually doing really well at the moment. So credit to both of them.
Exactly, that's good to hear.
Yeah, obviously he can't join the club until the summer. So will he be our Championship goalkeeper? Will he be our Premier League goalkeeper? Because I think the club actually see him going forward is going to be the number one keeper. Obviously, Ben Foster's contract is up in the summer. Daniel Backman is always speaking in the media about how good he is, but in reality, when it comes to the game, when shit hits the fan, he's just not that great. Pontus Dahlberg hasn't gone down well at Doncaster when he was out on loan, so I think he's now gone on loan to another club. I can't think of them off the top of my head, but that's not worked out well. And Rob Elliott, obviously, shouldn't be starting games for Watford. He's just there to
way too old.
Yeah. He's there to make up the numbers, isn't he? So it is a bit of a tricky situation with the goalkeeper. The back line, obviously, Callum, as we can see here, Kamara, Samir, both new signings come back in. Christian Kabasele making his first start for a while as well. Into midfield, Tom Cleverley started, which at the time I thought was a good decision, but as we later found out during the game, he didn't really play that well.
Wasn't with it.
And Joshua King started up front with João Pedro and Emmanuel Dennis. So getting into the first half, Callum, we get to half time. What's your initial thoughts in the first half? Because I thought largely we dominated the ball. We didn't really create many chances. Norwich had a few opportunities, but both teams, didn't really get shots away on target. We didn't challenge their keeper. They didn't really challenge Daniel Backman. And we dominated the ball, really. We had a good attacking phase towards the end of the first half, but largely, as I said, we didn't create anything. At half-time, personally, Callum, I was happy with the draw at that point. Obviously, I wanted to go on and win the game, but how was you feeling at that time? Were you nervous? Were you growing in confidence going into the second half?
I feel like, the game was such a 6-pointer. I mean, it's right down at the bottom of the table, and I think, in my mind, right before the game even started, I thought that, whoever loses this game is probably on the cards to get relegated alongside the two other clubs, which I think will probably be Newcastle and Burnley at this rate. But, I feel like we did dominate the ball all in the first half, and like you said there, went into 0-0 half-time. I was thinking, do you know what, if we just play this out, a draw will be a decent result, and hopefully we have the willpower then to go out and beat Burnley, but obviously that wasn't the case. So I feel like the second half we just capitulated. We just collapsed after that first goal that Sargent scored. Our defence just completely fell apart. We were getting chances down left. I think how Pedro was looking quite active, and then Dennis. I didn't really see Dennis get into the game much at all. And obviously you got that red card as well, which doesn't help matters against Burnley.
Well, shall we touch on that red card briefly as well, Callum? Because obviously he was yellow carded in the first half, wasn't he? And he made that challenge. Mike Dean booked him, and personally, obviously he didn't get the ball, but watching it back on the slow-mo replay, I do not think most referees would not give that as a second yellow card. I think Mike Dean all evening was, he set the precedent basically by handing out bookings. The game was very start. Anytime anyone made a challenge, he'd pull them up for it and have a word with them. So I think Mike Dean didn't really help the game in that sense. And it was, obviously, we don't want our players to get sent off, Callum. I read a statistic yesterday. Since the 16-17 Premier League season, only Arsenal have had more red cards in the Premier League than Watford, and that's with Watford not being in the Premier League for a season as well. So it's a very, very poor statistic. It wasn't a second yellow, was it, Callum?
Yeah, I think it was very controversial, and it'll be a talking point for many people. I think Mike Dean, he just, I wouldn't say he was complete anti-Watford, but I felt like he just made some really poor decisions throughout the game. So I think Dennis definitely should have played on it. I think it was quite a light challenge, and I wouldn't have seen it as a second yellow.
Am says, what's both of your thoughts on the first goal? A foul on Samir potentially. When I was obviously there at the game, I saw it happen in real time. Samir obviously went down. I think it was Samir and Timo Pukki challenging, in our area. But for me, yes, he went down. Yes, you could argue it's a foul. But Samir is a big, dominating centre-back. Timo Pukki is quite a small striker. You could argue Samir was off balance. But for me, you've got to be stronger in that situation. You're defending. You're defending in your own box. It's a dangerous area. Anything can happen in them situations, and I think Samir, for me, went down looking to get a free kick, and ultimately it didn't come. They scored the goal. Great finish by Sargent. Similar, it was kind of in a similar vein. I don't know if you remember the Olivier Giroud scorpion kick goal a few years ago. It wasn't exactly like that, but the way he kind of flicked his leg at the ball, it did remind me of that. So yeah, Callum, what's your thoughts on that goal? Was it a foul on Samir? Because personally, I don't think it was.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think there's definitely a contrast, in strength and size. I think Samir is just built like a brick shithouse, and I think Pukki, he is quite small compared to him, like you just said. And I'd actually read something on a Watford page yesterday that he thinks that Samir lost balance on the way and just kind of fell over and allowed Pukki to be in. I'm not so sure about that, but I feel like he did. I think he did fall over, but I don't think it was much of a foul.
Yeah, so that's our thoughts on that situation. Obviously, Watford at that point were 1-0 down. Dennis then got sent off, as we discussed. Then Joshua Sargent put Norwich 2-0 up, winning a header over Hassan Kamara. Again, for me, Callum, I think Batman should have done better. I think Kamara should have got the jump on Sargent. Obviously, Kamara is a defender. That should be, a situation he thrives in, aerially, and he didn't do that. Sargent, had the commitment to go up and win that header. Batman couldn't get anywhere near it for whatever reason, and they're 2-0 up. Then the floodlights fail, Callum. I mean, it all went wrong for Watford yesterday, didn't it?
Yeah, it was not our day. I just think it wasn't only that moment as well. I think our whole defence was just poor yesterday, and it really re-emphasised the point that we do need to go out and buy some more defenders, because I feel like that we just need to solidify what we have, and I just don't think our defence good enough to keep us in the Premier League, as proven yesterday. I think we made Sargent. We just made him look like a prime R9, like I said. Yeah, so. It wasn't amazing. And I think the floodlight situation as well, they added on 15 minutes to just prolong the pain.
Yeah, obviously we don't have enough money to pay the electricity bill at Watford, because that was very, very embarrassing. And to be fair, being in the ground, I know half the floodlights went out, but it was quite clear that we could play on, because there was enough light to play on. So I don't know why the game was delayed for so long. You mentioned there you'd like to bring in some more defensive reinforcements. Obviously, we are quite stacked with defenders at the moment. You think about the defenders we've got at the club. Yes, a couple are injured, but we are quite. We do have quite a lot of men in that area. We've got Nkulu, who's out injured till March. Sirielta, Cathcart, Samir, and a few others as well. Is there a couple there you'd look to get rid of? Would you look to maybe strengthen the right back situation as well? Because Kiko, we can discuss him as well. He did not have a good game yesterday at all. Yes, against Newcastle, he put in that fantastic cross for João Pedro. I think he thrives going forward, but defensively under pressure, Kiko for me is just not the guy, and I'd much prefer Ngakia in there. So you did mention, obviously, you wanted to bring some more players in. Obviously, we've been rumoured with Nat Phillips from Liverpool, but that's going to cost us, £15 million, which seems a lot of money to spend, especially for a club the size of Watford. So, number one, is there anyone you'd look to get rid of? And number two, who would you like to bring in?
I mean, granted, right, our owners are not billionaires, so we're not going to, bring in the best of the best centre backs, or some people that would want to join us that are of a high standard. So obviously we've got to set ourselves, to be realistic with the players that we sign, and also as well, Pozzo having links with Udinese. I think he also owned the club. He's brought in Sam from Udinese, he brought in Trista from Udinese, so he has those links. If Trista can perform like the way he has in AFCON, then I feel like he'd definitely be a really solid centre back to bring in for next season, or for the remainder of the season when he comes back from AFCON. Okoye, like you said, obviously doing really well with Nigeria, so if we can't sign him until the summer, I'm hoping that he can still continue on that form that he is in AFCON, and hopefully be like he is. I feel like, as you said there, Kiko, I just don't think he's really good enough anymore. I think he needs to go. Like you said,
Ngakia. I think with Kiko, I think he'd probably be better as a right winger, to be honest, because his deliveries sometimes can be absolutely superb. The crosses he whips in can be really, really dangerous. But defensively, he's just not. He's not at it, is he?
Definitely not. I feel like Ngakia, he's young, he's English as well, so I think he can really thrive under us. I mean, it definitely shows that will give youth a chance if we actually put Ngakia in to become our first choice. Okoye as well, who's also really young. I mean, granted, right? So we've signed Kamara, we've signed Samir. They're two solid defensive options, but I think our backup is just not great. I mean, like you said there in Kulu, I mean, he's getting quite old as it is as well. So I don't know if, being old, you're probably going to just decrease in value and just decrease in quality. But yeah, I think of to bring in anyone, like you said, Nat Phillips as well. I mean, yeah, I think that's starting to simmer down a bit. But like you said, like Kalu, like I mentioned earlier on, our attack doesn't need strengthening. I think we've got Dennis, we've got Saab. But the thing is, if we go down to the Championship, they're going to leave. So yeah. It's a really sticky situation at the moment. I think if we just need to bring in, more solid options so we become more a compact team, as I feel like our defence is really isolated from each other at the moment and we're just not performing to the standard that we should be.
Absolutely agree. Obviously, you mentioned the links with Samuel Kalu there from the Ligue 1 in France. He looks okay. He's not really prolific in terms of his scoring or assisting either. As you say, we've got Ashley Fletcher, Cucho, João Pedro, Dennis, King. The list goes on. We've got plenty of options, in them attacking areas. We've not really struggled to score goals this season either. Yes, lately, of course, we have struggled ever so slightly. But in terms of going forward and scoring goals, that's not something I think we necessarily need to work on. I think you're right. If we can bring Okoye in now to fill that slot and goal, that'd be much appreciated. Gino, obviously, I know you're a big fan of the channel, so please. But yeah, it's a tricky situation, and hopefully, I don't think necessarily new signings are the answer either, because I think the group we've got now, looking at Newcastle at the moment, obviously they can spend some money, but looking at Burnley, Everton are struggling, Norwich were struggling until they beat us. There's definitely 3 teams there who we could finish above. But for me yesterday, watching Norwich, their team cohesion. The atmosphere in their away and everything about them just seemed a lot more cohesive. And looking at the Watford team, everyone had their heads down. They were arguing with each other. Joshua King, there's an instance in the second half, Watford were on the attack. Joshua King was in an offside position. All he had to do was get himself back on side. And instead he just decided to walk as slowly as possible, and he could have been through on goal if he got back in line with the Norwich back line. So there's a few instances like that yesterday where I wasn't impressed with the Watford players' work rate. Obviously, it did get worse than 2-0 Callum. It ended 3-0 to Norwich. Some good play down the right flank for them. And Kuchka obviously puts it in the back of his own net. Daniel Batman couldn't get to it again, which I thought was really, really poor. Watching it back several times now. Yes, maybe you could argue Batman was wrong-footed, but I think for me, he's got to be at least getting a hand or a foot to that. And it just, made the day even worse, Callum. I mean, it actually could have finished, 4 or 5-0 to Norwich. It really was that bad.
Yeah, it was terrible. I think we were just short on fight yesterday, and I think like I miss players like Deeney who really get inside that change room and properly give them a rowling, just like really fire them up for that
Holebas
second.
as well, Gomez.
Yeah, Holebas. Yeah, like properly giving them that incentive that this is a relegation tussle, we have to win this. But obviously, we just didn't show that fight. Like you said there, all the players with their heads down. It was just a really pathetic showing. And for that third goal, Kuchka putting in his back over his own net, it just shows that we have defensive. We just had a defensive issue there. And I mean, yeah, sure, the backman I think could have done a bit better. He just couldn't catch it. Yeah, it wasn't solid. It wasn't what we expected. First of all, I think we were able to I thought we would be able, to contend with Norwich, try and deal with their attacking threat, because I didn't really see Norwich, as a team that had any danger men. I feel like obviously Pookie will score a goal now and there. I feel like Aaron's is quite a talented right back as well. And don't get me wrong, I think they definitely do have some talent. I mean, they have that centre back. I don't know if he played or not, but yeah, he does have a bit of talent. He's called like Omobamidele or something like that, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
I
don't know if
with
I'm
Norwich's
right.
team, I've got to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I think our team compared to theirs, I wouldn't say it's necessarily a huge golfing quality, but I think we definitely just have more of a solid team. But at the end of the day, it's all about what you do on the pitch that really says the talking. And we just looked incredibly weak.
I think there were some key quotes that come out after the game yesterday, especially from Claudio Ranieri. I'm not really interested in listening to what the players have to say, because quite frankly, I'm just angry at the performance they put out. I do feel for Claudio. I thought his quotes after the game to Sky Sports were very telling. He called some of our players selfish. So use obviously your own mind to make to think about who that might be. He said that he only wants players to play for the team who have a heart. He wants to fight for the club. So Claudio Ranieri there calling out a few Watford players. And I just think the squad just looks disjointed. I think that we don't know what the philosophy is. We changed the manager so much. My mum sometimes comes to Watford games, and she doesn't come very often. And it seems like every time she comes, there's a new manager in charge. So it's not really, it's just not a good look at all. I don't really know what to say. I'm a little bit lost for words, because yesterday it was a Graham Taylor match day. The club bigged it up. We got the email from Musa Sissoko saying sell as many seats as possible. Bring your family, bring your friends, bring your scarf. We had the fireworks before the game. Everyone was hyped up. The fans were hyped up. First half was good. And then after that, I don't know what happened at half time. But it seems like Norwich come out and wanted to win the game. And it seems like Watford come out and just, they didn't have the fight. They didn't have the desire. And if you don't have that in a relegation battle, ultimately, you're going to come up stuck, and it's not going to go your way. And Jamie Carragher after the game as well, he come out and he said, Watford arguably have the best attack in like the bottom half. Really, we've got Dennis, we've got Saar, we've got King, we've got Pedro. But he said that's not going to keep you out of the relegation battle. Where do we go from here, Callum? Obviously you suggested making new signings, but do you do that? Do you wait? Do you do that now? Do you wait till a new manager comes in? Does there have to be change at the very top of the club? Are you looking to maybe look at Gino's position, look at Scott Duxbury's position? Obviously, it's very difficult to sell a club midway through the season, but is that something that we should be considering now? Have they taken us as far as they can? My question basically is, where do we go from here?
Well, I mean, just as you said there, about Jamie Carragher's comments about us having one of the best attacks, quite lower down the table. It was them. It was up to them yesterday, to get the goals, to show a bit of passion, to show a bit of fight. Didn't do that whatsoever. And I mean, Dennis's red card, I don't know how it's gonna, entirely impact us against Burnley. I mean, he's an incredibly talented striker. I feel like he could, or forward. I mean, depends on where he played. I think he played in the right wing yesterday, but yeah, I feel like he will definitely bring a bit of attacking prowess to our squad, but obviously we don't have that for Burnley now, so it's going to have to rely on another attacker or a change in formation to really help us there. But where we go from here, I mean, I think I said to you before stream that Pozzo and Duxbury have done practically all they can now, to bring the squad to where it is. I mean, obviously we've got to thank them for what they've done. Like you said right before, right at the start of the stream. That 2019 FA Cup final, and I mean, yes, I think the result was probably not amazing, but yeah.
Did you go to that game? Because
I did. Yeah, I went to.
Everything about that day was great. Obviously, all the stuff building up to it. The semi-final was great as well. But yeah, as you say, the actual game itself. We forget about that. Were you waving your flag even when we were 5-0 down?
Yeah, I think probably less said about that result the better. But I was waving it. I was loud and proud. I was like, come on Watford, come on. Yeah, it's really terrible. But I think they've been pretty decent owners for us. But I feel like now I think they've lost their spark. I feel like they've bought a lot of players from Udinese as well, which I get because they also own that club as well. But we just need a bit more freshness. We need a new eye in the market, and we just need owners that I feel like will take us to their next level. And I just don't think Duxbury and Pozzo have the spark anymore to do that. So I think that, they need to go. And like you just said, that it's really hard to set a club in the middle of the season. So I think wait to the end of the season, see where we go. If we get to the Championship, then we do. There's nothing much more we can do about that. But I feel like new owners are probably imminent. Like you said with Ranieri as well, he's on the verge of being sacked. Actually, I think I read a stat. It was either last season or this year. I don't think it was this season. I think it was last season that we actually sacked more managers in that time than wins, which is craziness. So I don't know who we actually bring in next. And that's actually a really interesting topic to speak about. Who will we bring in next? Because Ranieri, he's definitely not short on Premier League experience. He's managed Leicester. He's won the Premier League, and obviously we never expected that. With Watford, I mean, it'd be great if he did, but we never expected that. So I feel like, who do we really bring in now that has that same quality, has that same experience, knows the Premier League's intensity, and I can replicate a good season. I mean, Javier Gracia, I think he was a world-class manager, and I just don't know why he got the sack like he did. I feel like
the thing was, they sacked him 4 games into the new season, wasn't it? I think did he lose them 4 games? I can't quite remember the run of form we were on. It did seem unfair at the time, and I think we missed a trick there because, arguably in the last 10 years, he has been our most successful manager at the club. Obviously, he got us the FA Cup final. He got us our highest Premier League finish. We were discussing before we come on stream, potentially Frank Lampard. We could look at him. But I think for me, regardless of who we get in, whether it be Pep Guardiola, Jurgen Klopp, or Sam Allardyce, whoever it may be, the only manager I don't want, by the way, is Steve Bruce, because I do think he's absolutely useless. But I'll leave that for another day. I think regardless of who we bring in, I think they're hindered by the people above them. I think that the Pozzos, they're not really recruiting. I don't really know how to word this. I think the whole model of Watford is completely wrong now. 5-6 years ago, we were picking up gems like Decore, Capu, etc. But I think the model now in the Premier League is completely different to what it was back then. Every Premier League team pretty much has a large amount of investment behind them. You see Newcastle getting these, billionaire owners. I'm not saying I want Saudi Arabian billionaire owners at Watford, but my point is it's becoming increasingly difficult to compete in the Premier League when you do not have a lot of money. Norwich, another case where they don't have a lot of money. Watford, Burnley, it's becoming very, very difficult to compete. You see Aston Villa spending lots of money. Everton, yes, they're not doing very well, but they do have a lot of money. So it's becoming very, very difficult for the model that we operate to be successful. And what I don't want is to become a yo-yo club where we have a great season in the Championship, we break all these records, we come up, get a few wins. Oh, what a shame. We're relegated again. Back up, back down. I do not want that to happen. We had a good run last time we were in the Premier League. I think it was 5 consecutive seasons, might have been 6. It was great. It was a great time. I was growing up through that time, obviously through the years when I was at school, and it was great. Watching all the big teams. And what I don't want is, I don't want to become, just a consistent second division club who sometimes goes up to the Premier League. I don't want that for Watford. If Gino does want to stay at Watford, I think they need to get some external backing, maybe sell a percentage of the club to get an investor in and invest some money into the club. And Obviously, we need to look at our player recruitment, because we can't just go out and buy, random players for 25 million like Newcastle have done. I think we need to buy players to fit the manager we bring in. If we hit a bad run of form, I think we need to keep the manager. If we bring Frank Lampard in and he loses 6 games in a row, don't look to sack him. Keep him there and build the club around him, build a philosophy, build a way of playing, because the players we've got at the moment, some of them are from this, regime. Some of them are from that regime. Some of them are under Claudio Ranieri. We've got players still from Walter Mazzara's era. We've just got a mismatch of players. We've got a mismatch of, players coming in, mismatch of players going out, mismatch of managers managing the club. I don't know where to go from here. The solution for everyone would arguably be, for me, for the owners to sell up and we start afresh and have a massive clear out, and that for me is the ideal solution. However, I don't think that's logically going to happen in the way the world works now. So yeah, that's really my thoughts on the whole situation. And obviously, as we mentioned earlier, Callum, it looks like Claudio Ranieri might be getting sacked. You must feel for him. I think he was pictured, this morning at Heathrow Airport flying somewhere. Where that is, we don't know. Will he return to Watford?
I mean, it's crazy. And first of all, I just want to touch on that thing like you just said there about all the signings that we bought. I picked up some gems under the Pozos, like you said, like Decore and Defeo and stuff like that. It's crazy how they've moved on. Now I think Pereira, he's moved on now to Udinese, funnily enough. So is Delafeu. Obviously, our Watford boy Richarlison, now he's moved over to Everton, and obviously, granted, he's not doing too well, but I mean, like, he's moved over to Everton for that big money move, and also as well, with that huge sum of money that we got for Richarlison, I just don't think we used it, to our advantage that well, and I feel like it's just it's a bit questionable. I mean, is there any like instance you recall, with the 50 million that we spent and who really spent it on to bolster our squad?
You know what? Nothing. I mean, now you ask me that, nothing really springs to mind. I mean, I'm trying to take my mind back to that season to think about who we signed. I mean, how much did we get for Richarlison? Was it about 40 million, 45 million?
About 40, 50 million, yeah, something like that.
I mean, that's a stupendous amount of money for Watford, isn't it? I mean, obviously, was it a year or two later, we signed Ismail Assar for quite a substantial fee. I think he cost like 25, 30 million. The thing is, I want to sit here and question the recruitment. However, they do find real gems. We've mentioned Capu, Decore, more recently João Pedro has obviously come into the team and done really well. He come in from Fluminense out in Brazil. I don't think the issue is necessarily with the players we bring in. I think the issue is we're not bringing in the players to fit the system the manager wants to play. If we brought in Frank Lampard, I think he really likes the 4-3-3 system from what I remember. The problem is at Watford, they don't seem to consult the management staff at all. They'll just look at the system we play. They'll go, yeah, we'll bring that person in, we'll bring that person in. I'll take you back to Javi Gracia actually as well, because they brought in Ismail Assar, who's clearly a winger. Javi Gracia played a 4-4-2 formation. Sarr didn't really fit his system. And actually, at the start of the season, Sarr sat on the bench for quite a long period of time. And I think that's ultimately one of the reasons why Javi Gracia got sacked, because he didn't utilise the new signing Ismail Assar at his disposal. Kike come in. Ismail Assar didn't fit his system. Kike got sacked. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, it's craziness. Yeah, like I said there, moving on from, I mean, Xisco as well. I feel like actually going along the line, I think Xisco is actually a pretty decent manager, but I feel like it's just that bad run of form again. He got a few losses in a row and then gone. So, yeah, I feel like Claudio Ranieri, yeah, he has, like, I do feel quite bad for him in a sense because, I feel like he did try his hardest, and I feel like he went out there to try and get a few wins and try and keep Watford back in the Premier League to where they need to be. But yeah, I feel like the players yesterday were horrific. Like, just showed no fight, showed no passion, and Ranieri, I don't think Ranieri's like totally to blame for yesterday, but I think players probably have to take the blame more on that one. As for a new manager, if he does get sacked, because like I said, he's on the verge. I mean, if Pep's willing to move to the Vic, to the Vic, I'll be happy to. But yeah. I mean, probably Lampard, like you said, there is probably the best bet. I mean, there's Rooney, and like I said yesterday as well. But again, like he's had experience in the Premier League, scoring goals. Nothing really managerial wise. So I mean, if we could get Rooney to try and play front like he did for Man United for us now, that'd be good. But yeah.
I think for me, Lampard's a good shout. There's not really that many managers available. Big Sam, no thank you. Steve Bruce, no thank you. No. Wayne Rooney is a good shout, but obviously he's been linked with Everton. I think that looks to be the likely move for him after he finishes at Derby, whether that be now or come the end of the season. I think that seems like that's a logical step for Rooney. I wouldn't mind an English manager. I did like Nigel Pearson. I thought that when he spoke in the media, he was very clear, very transparent. Sometimes with foreign managers, whether it be the language barrier, whether it just be their personality as a whole, I think sometimes they can be a lot more reserved. So I did like having Nigel Pearson. Not that I want him back. I'm just saying when you recruit an English manager, you do get a bit better communication between the club and the fans. To summarise the stream, all I would like now is Claudio Ranieri not to be sacked at the moment. I think that whoever we bring in is going to deal with a big task on their hands. What I want now is really just a statement from the club to explain the decisions they make and why they make them decisions.
Just an apology mainly.
Yeah, an
just
apology.
An apology from them.
I'd like my money back for the game. That'd be very nice. Thank you. But we've had fan forums before where fans can attend, ask questions to the owners, to the people who recruit the players. You can basically ask what you want, and they'll try and give you a good answer. Is that something that's necessary at the moment? Do you think that they should arrange a fan forum to ask questions to the board, ask questions to Scott Duxbury? Because at the moment, I think the atmosphere around the club is so bad. I think something like that is definitely necessary.
I mean, at the end of the day, the fans are a lifeblood at any club. So basically, without fans, you're nothing. So I think the owners should really take initiative and listen to what the fans want, listen to what the fans need. And I mean, I think most fans, they were looking for defensive backups, hence why we've got Samir and Kamara. But I feel like we just need, to get our voices heard, and we need the owners to really comply with us. As like you just said that, I feel like not only the players and the team are really disjointed, I think the fans and the owners are really disjointed from each other as well. So if we can, really recuperate ourselves, and really communicate, so we can, build a solid foundation again, and we can sign better players, and we'll be able to liaise with each other, so we can build up a stronger squad, so we're more compact for next season, whether we'll be in the Championship or not. I think that's one of the best ways you can move forward.
Callum, thank you very much for joining me today. Really do appreciate it. You can check out Callum's Instagram page at the Hornets House. He launched that yesterday, so make sure you go check that out. Give him a follow, and he'll be posting content. Well, for who knows how long. He's trying to grow his page. And do you want to quickly talk about what you're trying to achieve with that, Cam, very briefly?
Well, yeah. So I started the Hornets House yesterday. I think it's been my ambition now for about months on end now. To start a page where Watford fans, can have a voice, can really express themselves. Where if it's on the normal Watford page, there's thousands of comments on there. So I'm just like a little macrocosm, like of a Watford fan who wants to express his thoughts, and I feel like if you guys want to follow me, express your thoughts on the game yesterday. That's my first ever post. Basically, give me your thoughts. What's going to happen with Ranieri? Are Pozzo and Duxbury, are they the right men to lead us forward now? Just give me the thoughts. That's all I want to hear, and I'll be posting practically. I'll probably post. I'll definitely be posting every match day. For stories, I'll definitely be reposting some of your guys' stories as well. If you guys are any Watford fans, that comment about the game, and you just tag me or something like that, and I'll probably repost you. I just want to build a decent following, so I have a little bit of a fan base and a little Watford community, so we can all communicate together and just enjoy the ride together, I guess, because it's going to be a bumpy one from now on.
Certainly is. We'll have to see what happens with Claudio Ranieri. Obviously, we'll keep you posted here on the Watford Way and bring you any updates as and when we get them. Obviously, you can follow us on social media as well. You can find the links to all of them in the description down below. We're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on Spotify, and of course, we're here on YouTube as well. I really appreciate you coming on, Callum. I appreciate everyone tuning in as well. It's much appreciated. And yeah, it's going to be an interesting few days ahead. Obviously, Watford don't play now for another 2 weeks. We're back on the 5th of February for Burnley away. The rearranged game that got rearranged again. We're back for that. And then after that, we've got a really, really crucial run of games. So looking forward to it. Please subscribe. Please check out Callum's new Instagram page. That'd be much appreciated. And we'll catch you ultimately for Claudio Ranieri's sacking, which looks inevitable very, very soon. Bye-bye.